Okay, so we spent all last week talking about what is a system of equations, and we solved them by graphing. Remember, the point where they touch is their solution. So the solution to a system is an ordered pair. Well, sometimes all we're going to be given is an equation. For now, if you look at these two equations, this is easy to solve by graphing. I could graph it. But you'll see as we build this week that there'll be some equations that have large numbers. And in order to graph them, you're going to have, it's just going to be a little bit more complex. So there's another method called elimination. It's a series of steps. Our first step is always line up the variables. Okay, so let's take a look. Normally I line up the variables. However, I already have one variable solved for, meaning I already know, okay, that y equals 2. It says it right there. So I blocked out my steps because you know what? I don't need to line them up. I don't need to do any of that. I already have one of the variables. I already know y is 2. My y point is 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my y value, which we said was 2, and we're going to plug it into the other equation and find my x. So I'm going to replace this y with 2. Now I'm going to do the math. 3 times 2 is 6. So ladies and gentlemen, I just found my x value. So now I just need to take my two values, 6 and 2, and write them as an ordered pair. Okay? So remember, 6, 2 was our first one. How could I check? I could plug it in and make sure it works. So let's block this out and let's focus on my next system. It says I have to line up the variables. Well, here's what I mean. Okay, so my y in my first equation is on the right-hand side, whereas my y in my second equation is on the left-hand side. What do I mean by sides? Sides, when we refer to sides of an equation, we refer to the equal sign. So right now, those two variables are not lined up. I could do this one of two ways, okay? I need my variables on the same side. So I'm going to take this first equation, okay, and I'm going to leave it as it is. I'm going to take my second one and go kind of on another sheet of paper or down below where you have space. And I'm going to get y to the other side by the process we've been doing with equations. Therefore, it's going to say x equals negative y plus 7. I now have my variables lined up. If you take a look at your two equations, the x's are both to the left and the y's are both to the right. So that's why we can put a check on step 1. Okay. Now step 2 is I'm going to have to multiply. So the reason why we multiply is to get opposite coefficients. Remember, a coefficient is the number in front of a variable. An opposite is when I add the two numbers together, I'll get 0. Okay? And you do this for either variable x or y. It doesn't matter. So we also call these zero pairs. So I actually have a zero pair here. If I look, I have in front of this y, a 1, and in front of this y, a negative 1. So I already have a zero pair. I've already gotten what I need to do. So I need you to write in, as you're doing this problem, look at the sentences I have on the right-hand side. Those need to be written in your notes. You will not get full credit if those are not written in. So since this step is done, I can move on, and now I'm going to add both equations. So let's see what this looks like. Okay. When I add the two equations together, again, I'm going to say this now. I shouldn't have to continue to say this. it says add the two equations to generate one new equation with only one variable. That should be written in your notes. So I'm going to add the two equations. When I add x plus x, I get 2x. I'm going to put my equal sign. Now I'm adding 1y and negative 1y. Those are going to cancel. And that was the whole point of step 2. The whole point of multiplying to get a zero pair was so that they eliminate. And then 3 plus 7 is 10. So if you notice, 1 plus negative 1 is 0. Now keep in mind, we don't normally write 0y or 0x. That's just an unnecessary placeholder. So when I go over, I don't have to write it. I can just put 2x equals 10. Okay? So I've now added both equations, and I'm going to solve for what's left. What's left is x. If I solve for x, I divide both sides by 2. Therefore, the x of my ordered pair is 5. I have now done that. Now I'm going to plug my solution in to find the other variable. Well, where am I plugging it in? Write this down. You replace the variable that you solved for. So in this case, I solved for x into one of the original equations and solve for the second unknown. Doesn't matter which equation you choose. I'm going to choose this one. It just, to me, makes more sense. So I plug in 5 equals y plus 3. I subtract 3 from both sides to get y equals 2. So there is my other ordered pair, 5, 2. Now the last step says check. How do I check? Well, that's what we did the very first day last Tuesday night's homework. It was what we did in class on Wednesday on that blue sheet where you plugged in to check. That's why we learned that, so that when you're doing this process and solving, you can plug your answer in to check. It's a lot. It's all steps. And if you miss out on one step, this is difficult. We're going to spend all week doing this, and we're going to build into special cases. So please make sure you have all the sentences that were in the video written down. That's the only way you will get full credit.